The late afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the pristine waters of the Great Barrier Reef. Marcus Hale, a seasoned deep-sea diver and marine biologist, sat quietly at the edge of his boat, double-checking his equipment as the boat gently rocked in the tide. The rhythmic slap of water against the hull was almost hypnotic, but Marcus' mind was sharp, focused on the mission ahead. Today was supposed to be a routine dive, part of a project to monitor coral health and track the impact of climate change on the delicate marine ecosystem. Marcus had done this 1,000 times before descending into the depths to study the ocean's wonders. But something about today felt different. Maybe it was the way the sun seemed to sink faster than usual, casting an eerie glow across the horizon. Or maybe it was the unusual silence on the radio, a sense of anticipation in the air. He brushed it off as pre-dive jitters. With a final deep breath, Marcus adjusted his oxygen tank, checked his mask, and signaled to his crew. As he flipped over the side of the boat and plunged into the cool water, he felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. The noise of the world above faded, replaced by the muted, serene hum of the deep. He descended steadily, his breathing slow and controlled, surrounded by schools of colorful fish darting through the corals below. At about 200 meters, Marcus activated his sonar scanner, a small piece of advanced tech he used to map the seabed and look for unusual formations. As the signal pulsed into the void, the image on his screen flickered with the usual topography: rocky outcroppings, coral beds, and the occasional large boulder. But then, something different appeared. A strange, sharp blip. It was faint but distinct, showing a shape that was far too structured, far too symmetrical, to be natural. Marcus frowned. A wreck? It wasn't uncommon for old shipwrecks to dot the ocean floor in this region, but this was different. The shape was smooth, almost sleek, and buried deep beneath layers of sediment. Curiosity gnawed at him. "Base, this is Marcus. I've got something strange here. I'm going to check it out," he radioed up to the surface. There was a crackle of static before the response came through. "Roger that, Marcus. Proceed with caution. We're getting your feed." He adjusted his course and descended further, the pressure of the deep increasing with every meter. At 800 meters, the water turned inky black, his helmet lights cutting through the darkness. As Marcus approached the source of the sonar signal, his eyes widened in disbelief. There, half buried in the sand, was something enormous. A massive structure, easily the size of a commercial airliner, its surface smooth and metallic, with strange, fluid curves unlike any human-made object he had ever seen. His breath caught in his throat as he swam closer, inspecting the hull of the craft. The material was strange, an alloy of some kind, but completely unfamiliar. No corrosion, no damage from the depths. It had been preserved, untouched by time or the elements. "Base. I don't know what this is, but it's definitely not a shipwreck," Marcus muttered into his comm, his heart pounded in his chest. "I think it's something else." The team on the surface was silent for a moment, processing the magnitude of his words. "Marcus, can you get any closer? We're not getting a clear visual." "Roger. I'll check for an entry point," Marcus replied, his voice unsteady as he maneuvered around the alien craft. As he examined the surface, his helmet light caught something, a faint glimmer, almost like a door, seamlessly integrated into the ship's exterior. His pulse quickened. He hovered in front of it, unsure if he should proceed. "Okay," he whispered to himself, forcing down his nerves. "Let's see what's inside." He reached out, and as his gloved hand brushed against the metallic surface, the door began to slide open with a hiss, revealing a dark passageway that led into the heart of the ship. The air inside was frigid, far colder than the surrounding water, and the walls were lined with strange, glowing symbols, pulsing faintly as though the ship was still alive in some way. "Base. I'm going in," Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" came the worried voice of his support team. But Marcus couldn't turn back now. Every instinct told him he was on the verge of something monumental, something that would redefine everything humanity thought it knew about the universe. He entered cautiously, swimming through the dimly lit corridor, his lights reflecting off the smooth, alien surfaces. The silence inside the ship was oppressive, broken only by the faint hum of his breathing equipment. As Marcus floated deeper into the ship, the architecture became more complex. Panels and control consoles lined the walls, some still flickering with power. He hovered in front of one of the consoles, studying the strange symbols that adorned the interface. They were geometric, intricate, and utterly foreign. He couldn't decipher their meaning, but they pulsed with an eerie rhythm, as though the ship was still alive in some way. Suddenly, a flash of movement in the corner of his vision made him whip around. At the end of the corridor, a faint blue light flickered, then grew brighter. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He hesitated, torn between retreating and investigating further. The blue light grew stronger, and Marcus found himself drawn toward it, almost against his will. As he entered the next chamber, the source of the light became clear, a large, circular device embedded in the floor, glowing with an ethereal energy. Hovering above it was a holographic projection, flickering in and out of focus a map of the stars, but not the stars as he knew them. The constellations were unfamiliar, as though from a part of the galaxy no human had ever seen. And at the center of the map was a large, pulsating shape, a black void, growing larger with each pulse. Marcus's heart raced. He didn't fully understand what he was seeing, but he knew it was something far beyond his comprehension. He fumbled for his camera, recording every detail, every symbol, every flicker of the alien projection. The implications of this discovery were staggering. But before he could take another step, the walls around him began to hum. The ship itself seemed to be waking up. A sudden jolt of energy surged through the air, and Marcus felt a sharp crackle of static in his comms. His lights flickered. "Base, something's happening down here, dash." Without warning, the projection blinked out, and the ship's interior plunged into darkness. Marcus's breathing quickened as the eerie silence returned. He spun around, searching for any sign of movement, his mind racing. The door behind him slid shut with a soft hiss, trapping him inside. And then, in the oppressive quiet of the alien vessel, a new sound echoed through the darkness, a low, resonant hum, like the beating of a distant heart. Whatever this ship was, it wasn't as dormant as he had thought. Marcus' heart raced as he stood in the pitch-black chamber, the low hum reverberating through the metallic walls of the alien ship. His suit's HUD flickered in and out as the ship's systems sputtered to life, casting erratic pulses of light into the corridor. For a moment, he considered turning back, retreating the way he had come. But there was no time to waste. The door behind him was sealed, and whatever had woken up inside this ship had no intention of letting him leave easily. He activated the flashlight on his helmet, cutting a narrow beam of light through the darkness. The hum grew louder as he slowly advanced down the corridor, every step filled with trepidation. His oxygen monitor blinked a reassuring green. He had hours of air left, but that did little to calm his nerves. He wasn't afraid of running out of air. He was afraid of what might be waiting deeper inside. As Marcus crept forward, his flashlight beam caught the edges of the alien walls. Strange, angular patterns covered the surfaces, glowing faintly with the same pulsing light he had seen earlier. The technology looked far beyond anything Earth had ever developed, organic in design, almost alive. It reminded him of something out of a science fiction movie, but this was real. Very real. The passage opened into a larger chamber, its ceiling stretching far above his head. Marcus stopped at the entrance, his breath catching as his light swept over the room. Dozens of cylindrical pods lined the walls, each one big enough to contain a human-sized figure. They glowed faintly from within, the soft, ethereal light casting long shadows across the floor. The air was cold, unnaturally so, and Marcus could see his breath misting in front of his mask. He approached the nearest pod cautiously, his hand trembling as he raised his flashlight. Inside, a figure floated in suspended animation. Marcus squinted, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The creature inside was humanoid, but not human. Its skin was pale, almost translucent, with delicate web-like patterns running across its surface. Its eyes, larger than any humans, were closed, as though it were in a deep sleep. There was something strangely peaceful about its expression, but the alien nature of its features sent a chill through Marcus' body. "Base, this is Marcus," he whispered into his comm, his voice barely steady. "I've found something. Alive. Or at least, I think it's alive." The response from the surface was garbled, a burst of static cutting through his earpiece. Repeat. No visual. Marcus cursed under his breath. The interference must have been from the ship's systems activating. He tried again. "Base, do you read me?" Nothing but silence. His heart pounded in his chest as he moved to the next pod. The creature inside was different, similar in shape, but its skin was a deep, shimmering blue, and its limbs were longer, more slender. Marcus realized with growing unease that each pod seemed to contain a different species. This was no ordinary spacecraft. It was a collection, an ark, perhaps, carrying representatives of multiple alien civilizations. Marcus continued down the row, his flashlight beam dancing across the alien faces frozen in stasis. There were dozens of them, some humanoid, others more insect-like, with exoskeletons and compound eyes. Each one was preserved perfectly, as though they had been put to sleep for an indeterminate amount of time, waiting to be awakened. Suddenly, his comm crackled to life again, but this time, the voice was clearer. "Marcus, we're getting some of your feed." "What is that? Are those living beings?" "I don't know," Marcus replied, his voice low. "They're in some kind of stasis. There are different species here. It's like they were being stored. But why? And for how long?" His hand hovered over the glass of one of the pods, and for a brief moment, he wondered what would happen if he tried to open it. His instinct told him to leave it alone, but his curiosity was overwhelming. This discovery was beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. It could change everything they knew about life in the universe. But before he could contemplate further, a sharp hissing sound filled the air. Marcus spun around, his flashlight flickering. One of the pods at the far end of the room began to open on its own. The seals around the glass cracked, and a gust of cold air escaped, misting into the room. Marcus froze, his eyes locked on the pod. Slowly, the glass lid slid open, revealing the figure inside. It was one of the humanoid aliens, its pale skin glowing faintly in the dim light. The creature's eyes fluttered open, revealing luminous green irises that reflected the light like polished gems. For a moment, the alien remained still, as though adjusting to its surroundings. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, it turned its head to face Marcus. His blood ran cold. The alien's gaze was unnervingly calm, but there was something ancient, something powerful behind its eyes. Marcus didn't move. He didn't even breathe. The creature's eyes locked onto his, and for a second, Marcus felt like it was looking through him into his mind, his thoughts. Suddenly, the alien raised a hand, placing it gently against the inside of the glass. Its lips moved, forming a wordless, silent communication. Marcus couldn't hear anything, but he could feel a soft vibration in the air, almost like the hum of the ship itself. Was it trying to speak? Or was it something else? His instinct screamed at him to leave, but his feet remained rooted in place. He fumbled for his camera, recording every second of the encounter. This was the first contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence, perhaps the first of many. Then, just as suddenly as it had woken, the alien's eyes dimmed, and it collapsed back into the pod, its body going limp. The pod hissed shut, sealing itself once more as though nothing had happened. Marcus let out a shaky breath, his entire body trembling with adrenaline. What had just happened? Why had only one of the aliens awoken, and why had it gone back into stasis so quickly? His mind raced with questions, but there were no answers, at least, none he could find in this moment. He had to get out of here. As he turned to leave, Marcus noticed something else, a door at the far end of the chamber, glowing faintly. Unlike the other doors he had seen, this one was clearly a control room of some kind. The glow of the strange symbols was stronger here, pulsing in a rhythmic pattern. Whatever was behind that door held the key to understanding the ship, its purpose, and its inhabitants. Against his better judgment, Marcus moved toward it. With a soft hiss, the door slid open, revealing a massive circular chamber lined with screens and consoles. In the center of the room was a large, crystalline structure that pulsed with energy, casting strange shadows across the walls. The hum of the ship was louder here, more intense. This was the heart of the vessel, the command center. As Marcus approached the central console, the screens flickered to life. Alien text scrolled across the displays, incomprehensible to him, but the patterns of light were mesmerizing. And then, without warning, a projection appeared above the console, a holographic map of the stars, just like the one he had seen before. But this time, it was different. This time, the map was zooming in, focused on a specific point in space. His eyes widened in horror as he recognized what it was showing: Earth. The map showed Earth's solar system in vivid detail, and as the projection played out, a massive object, a dark void, began to move toward it. It was a black hole, or something like it, and it was getting closer. The ship wasn't just a wreck. It was a warning. Marcus stood frozen in front of the holographic display, his breath catching as the image of the dark void, a supermassive object hurtling through space, grew larger, inching closer to Earth. His pulse pounded in his ears as the map zoomed out, revealing the full scale of the phenomenon. Stars were vanishing into the abyss, entire solar systems swallowed by its inescapable gravity. The hologram pulsed with urgency, as though the ship itself was trying to convey the impending danger. This wasn't just a discovery, it was a threat. A cosmic disaster was coming, and it was headed straight for Earth. "Base, do you copy?" Marcus whispered into his comm, his voice trembling. "You need to see this. I found a map. It's showing a black hole, or something worse, moving toward us. This isn't just a ship. It's a warning system." The radio crackled with static, but this time there was a response. "We're getting your feed, Marcus, but it's cutting in and out." "Did you say a black hole?" "Yes," Marcus confirmed, his heart racing. "It's moving toward our solar system. I don't know when it'll arrive, but it's coming. The ship's technology. It looks like they were tracking it, trying to escape or warn someone." Silence from the surface team. Marcus imagined the stunned looks on their faces, just as his own had been moments before. It wasn't every day you stumbled upon an alien ship at the bottom of the ocean, let alone one with information that could doom the entire planet. The screens around him flickered, pulling his attention back to the ship's interior. The map continued to scroll, cycling through different star systems and alien constellations. Marcus was beginning to understand. This ship had traveled vast distances, possibly across galaxies, and it hadn't come to Earth by accident. These creatures had fled here, seeking refuge from the cosmic event that was now bearing down on Earth. As he processed the gravity of the situation, the soft hum of the ship suddenly shifted, becoming louder, more insistent. He turned, scanning the chamber, feeling a growing sense of unease. The ship's systems were reactivating, its energy levels rising. It was almost as if it had sensed Marcus' presence. His interaction with the console had triggered something. And then, from behind him, came the unmistakable hiss of another pod opening. Marcus spun around, dread flooding his body. The soft, misty fog of stasis gas spilled into the room as the glass lid of a nearby pod slid open. The faint blue glow of the alien technology bathed the chamber in a surreal light, casting long shadows across the floor. Slowly, the figure inside began to stir. It was one of the humanoid aliens, similar to the one he had seen earlier. This one had pale blue skin, with patterns of shimmering light tracing across its body like a living constellation. Its eyes were closed, but its chest rose and fell steadily. It was waking up. Marcus took a step back, his mind racing. He wasn't prepared for the possibility that the ship's inhabitants could still be alive, let alone awakening. What should he do? Should he stay, try to communicate, or flee before the situation escalated? Before he could decide, the alien's eyes snapped open, locking onto him with an intensity that sent a jolt through his spine. The creature slowly sat up, its movements graceful yet mechanical, as though it was still shaking off the effects of centuries, perhaps millennia, of suspended animation. For a moment, neither of them moved. Marcus's heart pounded in his chest as he tried to gauge the alien's intentions. Was it hostile? Peaceful? The alien stared at him with wide, luminescent eyes, its gaze unreadable. Then, to Marcus' astonishment, the alien raised its hand, palm outward in a gesture that seemed universally clear, a sign of peace. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. It was trying to communicate. His mind raced as he scrambled to respond. Slowly, cautiously, he raised his own hand in a mirrored gesture, hoping the alien would understand. The creature's eyes flickered with recognition, and it tilted its head slightly, studying him with what Marcus could only describe as curiosity. Its lips moved, forming a sound, a soft, melodic hum that echoed in the chamber like a distant song. Marcus couldn't understand the words, but the tone was gentle, not threatening. The ship's consoles lit up again, flooding the room with information that scrolled too quickly for Marcus to comprehend. He could sense a connection forming between the alien and the ship, in exchange of data, perhaps. The alien's gaze shifted from Marcus to the holographic map, and for the first time, it reacted with what looked like concern. The alien touched the console, and the map zoomed back in on Earth. The projection focused on the path of the black hole, showing its approach toward the solar system. Marcus watched in growing horror as the image updated in real time, showing how little time humanity had left. The alien turned to him, its expression somber. It raised its hand again, this time pointing to the map. There was no mistaking the urgency in its gesture. It was trying to warn all of humanity. Marcus fumbled for his radio. "Base, we've got a problem." "The alien, it's awake. It's showing me the black hole. We need to get this information out, now." Before the team could respond, a loud mechanical noise echoed through the chamber. Another pod hissed open, followed by another, and another. Marcus's flashlight beam darted across the room as more of the ship's occupants began to stir, their once dormant bodies slowly coming back to life. Panic surged through him. He was no longer alone in this alien vessel. One by one, the aliens emerged from their pods, each more bizarre and terrifying than the last. Some were humanoid, others distinctly more alien in form, tall, spindly figures with multiple limbs, insect-like eyes, and armored exoskeletons. Despite their varying appearances, they all shared a common purpose: survival. The low hum of the ship rose to a deafening pitch as its systems fully reactivated, filling the chamber with an electric energy that vibrated through the walls. The ship itself seemed to come alive, responding to the presence of its awakened crew. Marcus could feel a strange, almost sentient awareness pulsing through the vessel. It wasn't just a ship. It was a living organism, a symbiotic machine designed to protect its inhabitants. One of the larger aliens, a towering figure with deep violet skin and glowing eyes, stepped forward, looming over Marcus. It reached out, its massive hand hovering near his chest. Marcus flinched, unsure of what the creature was about to do, but then he felt a warmth spread through his body. The alien wasn't attacking him, it was communicating, not with words, but with thoughts and emotions. He could feel its fear, its desperation. And then, a flood of images filled his mind. He saw alien worlds, lush, vibrant planets teeming with life, all destroyed by the same cosmic anomaly, swallowed by the black hole that was now headed for Earth. The images were overwhelming, each one a snapshot of devastation and loss, civilizations erased in an instant. These creatures had escaped the annihilation of their homeworlds, but they had known that Earth, too, would face the same fate. The vision shifted. Marcus saw Earth's future cities collapsing under the immense gravitational pull, oceans evaporating, the atmosphere ripped away as the planet was consumed. The terror of the vision made Marcus stagger, almost dropping to his knees under the weight of what he had just seen. He gasped, the connection breaking as the alien withdrew its hand. His mind reeled. They had all come here, seeking refuge from the unstoppable force that had already destroyed their worlds. And now, they were trying to warn humanity of the same fate. But time was running out. Marcus steadied himself, breathing heavily. He knew what he had to do. He had to get this information back to the surface. Humanity needed to know the truth needed to prepare for what was coming. But as he turned toward the exit, he felt the alien's hand gently rest on his arm. He looked up, meeting its glowing eyes once more. The alien's voice echoed softly in his mind, a single word that chilled him to his core. Help! Marcus Hale's mind raced as he emerged from the alien ship, his heart pounding with the weight of the terrifying vision still fresh in his mind. The calm, dark waters off the coast of Australia seemed impossibly ordinary compared to what he had just witnessed inside the wreck. As his dive team hauled him aboard the research vessel, he could barely find the words to explain what he had seen. The ship. It's alive, Marcus muttered, ripping off his helmet and gulping in the fresh air. There are aliens down there, different species, in stasis. They woke up, and they showed me. Something horrible is coming. His team exchanged confused glances, but Marcus barely noticed. His hand shook as he grabbed a laptop and pulled up the video feed from his dive camera. The footage was still intact: the alien ship, the pods, the star map showing Earth, and the impending black hole. He frantically rewound the footage to the exact moment the alien had communicated with him, his hands trembling as he clicked play. The holographic projection of the black hole filled the screen, its dark mass expanding toward Earth's solar system. The image zoomed in, showing Earth's orbit, the gravitational wave that would devastate the planet, the chaos that would follow. His colleagues gasped as they saw the undeniable evidence, an existential threat on a galactic scale. Is that a black hole? One of his crewmates whispered, eyes wide with disbelief. It's more than that, Marcus replied, his voice raw. It's not just a black hole. It's something worse, something the aliens called the Great Wave. It's moving through space, consuming everything in its path. Their civilizations were destroyed by it. They came to Earth to escape, but they knew it was coming for us too. The boat's deck fell silent as the gravity of Marcus' words settled over them. No one knew what to say. This was beyond any scientific discovery in history. This was a direct, imminent threat to the survival of the human race. We have to warn them, Marcus said, breaking the silence. We have to warn everyone. Within hours, Marcus's discovery had reached the highest levels of government. The Australian authorities immediately quarantined the site, and an international task force was assembled, consisting of military, scientific, and diplomatic experts. They worked feverishly to analyze the data Marcus had brought back, trying to understand the full scope of the disaster. News of the alien ship and its terrifying warning leaked to the public, and soon the world was gripped by fear. Broadcasts replayed the holographic map on a continuous loop, showing the Great Wave's relentless approach. Every nation mobilized, but panic spread as it became clear that the event could not be stopped by conventional means. At the United Nations, world leaders convened in emergency sessions. Theories flew about what to do next. Could the world's brightest minds find a way to divert or survive the anomaly? Or would humanity be forced to flee its home planet? Marcus sat in a dimly lit room deep within a government facility in Canberra, the alien data core glowing softly in front of him. The same alien who had shown him the horrifying vision now stood beside him, its presence a quiet reminder of the stakes at hand. The creature whom the scientists had nicknamed Orion for the golden light in its eyes watched the discussions unfold with an eerie calm. It had been communicating telepathically with Marcus in the days since its awakening, though the messages were fragmented, limited by the vast gulf between their two species' minds. Marcus could sense Orion's overwhelming sorrow. Its race, along with the other species on the ship, had lost everything to the Great Wave. They had spent their final moments on Earth hoping to warn the planet's inhabitants, knowing that humanity's only chance of survival lay in understanding what was coming. But even Orion wasn't certain of how to stop the anomaly. "I don't know what to do," Marcus whispered, looking over at the alien. "The whole world is counting on us." Orion's glowing eyes blinked slowly, and Marcus felt the familiar hum of telepathic contact, a soft, distant presence brushing against his thoughts. This time, the message was clearer, more focused. "Not alone." Marcus frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" The alien stepped forward, its long fingers gently touching the console that controlled the holographic star map. The projection shifted, zooming out from Earth's solar system and revealing more distant regions of the galaxy, places beyond even the most advanced telescopes' reach. Marcus watched as the map focused on a cluster of stars far beyond the Milky Way, and then Orion's voice echoed in his mind again. "Others, watching. Waiting." Marcus stared at the map, the weight of Orion's words sinking in. He understood now Earth wasn't the only planet facing destruction. There were others, civilizations far more advanced than humanity, watching the approach of the Great Wave from across the galaxy. These beings might hold the key to stopping the anomaly, but they hadn't intervened yet. Were they waiting to see how Earth responded? Or were they biding their time, choosing when and where to act? Marcus's heart pounded with renewed urgency. If there were others out there, more powerful civilizations who had survived the Great Wave's approach, then there was still hope. But how could humanity reach them? How could they ask for help? "We need to send a message," Marcus said, standing suddenly. "We need to use the ship's technology to signal those other civilizations. If they're out there, they'll hear us." Orion turned its glowing eyes toward him and gave a slow, deliberate nod. The weeks that followed were a blur of frantic activity. The ship's ancient technology was reverse-engineered by a joint team of human and alien scientists who worked tirelessly to unlock the secrets of its communication systems. Marcus and Orion stayed close to the core of the operation, guiding the project as best they could. As the Great Wave inched closer, time was running out. Around the world, preparations were made for the worst. Governments built massive underground bunkers, space agencies ramped up their efforts to launch exploratory ships, and scientists raced to develop new propulsion systems based on the alien technology. There was no way to predict what would happen when the Great Wave arrived, whether it would rip the planet apart or merely disrupt the solar system's gravitational stability. But everyone knew the consequences would be catastrophic. Finally, the day arrived. Marcus stood inside the alien ship's central chamber, watching as the final sequence was initiated. The ship's systems long dormant began to hum with a deep, resonant energy. Orion stood beside him, hands resting on the control panel, guiding the transmission. It was a desperate gamble, but it was humanity's only chance. They were sending a distress signal into the vast unknown, hoping that someone somewhere was listening. The ship's main console flared to life, beams of light streaming through the vessel as the message shot into the void of space. Marcus watched the holographic map, tracing the signal as it spread out like ripples in a pond, crossing star systems, stretching toward distant galaxies. For a long moment, nothing happened. The room was silent except for the steady hum of the ship. Then, something remarkable occurred. The star map flickered, shifting to display a new set of coordinates. Marcus's eyes widened as a response appeared in incoming signal. Orion's eyes glowed brighter, and a soft, melodic tone filled the chamber. Someone had answered. Marcus felt a surge of hope rise in his chest. The signal resolved into a new projection, showing a distant alien civilization, vast structures, enormous spacecraft, and beings that defied comprehension. They were advanced beyond anything humanity had ever imagined, their technology so far ahead of Earth's that it seemed almost magical. And they had received the call. "They're coming," Marcus whispered, his voice trembling with a mix of relief and awe. "They're coming to help." But even as the words left his mouth, he knew the truth: their arrival might not be enough. The great wave was still approaching, and time was running out. Would the newly awakened allies arrive in time? Could they stop the cosmic event that had already devoured so many worlds? The room buzzed with anticipation, but the future remained uncertain. Marcus turned to Orion, meeting the alien's glowing gaze once more. Whatever happened next, humanity was no longer alone. The great wave was coming, but so, too, was the rest of the galaxy.